Packers take care of business against the Cardinals and finally play a complete game. Awesome. The offense was rolling on a wet day, too, and the defense contained Murray and co. Join us as we recap the game for the Packers.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm cash.
Welcome in, Sounds Gouda. Woo! Let's go, everyone. What a complete game. Probably the first for the Packers this year. I am one of your two co-hosts. My name is Rob Ralph, of course. And as always, next to me is my best friend, Jordan Olson.
What's up, folks?
How's it going? Yep. We are on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. As always, hit that like and subscribe. Tell a Packer friend or two. Just know that we do have new episodes come out every Wednesday and every Saturday in season. Wednesday is the recap from the game previous, and Saturday is the preview for the upcoming game. So, Jordan, I got a question for you. There is a lot of great things that we can talk about, but Romeo, where art thou, Romeo, Jordan?
You had to go fully right into the Dobbs of it all, huh?
I did. Yep.
Hey, and that's fair because I'm very happy for Romeo Dobbs. He had 2 touchdowns today, 3 receptions, I think 49 yards. And whether it was intentional that he was in the game plan or Jordan Love wanted to look his way, it was really great to see him involved, to end up on the receiving end of 2 touchdowns. And after the first one, it was really good to see all of his teammates huddle around him, give him a high five, a pat on the butt, say, hey, you're back. We're still here for you, bud. We're pulling for you. And then that second one, I mean, what a hell of an adjustment on that second TD again. Some people might be saying that's like a YOLO ball from Love, and, maybe a little bit we could pick him apart there. He's going to throw one of those a game. But again, Dobbs being very sure-handed, made a great adjustment to the ball, ended up coming down with it. And how many times have we seen those two do it over and over again where, it gets thrown up and Dobbs comes down with a great play in the end zone. So super happy. I know that he addressed the media this past week. I will say he seemed extremely uncomfortable up there. I would say that he seemed like he was a remorseful individual. And, I won't go on too long here, but one thing I did go back and look at because, there are a lot of comments on Twitter and X about, he doesn't look right. We need to, get the media away from him. And, I'm not sure that he is, 100% with his mental health. And I did. It spurred me to go back. I looked at an interview he did in June. Go back and look. He's much more chipper and presents much differently in June, and then in August, you could see him, even after Packers family night, the tone was down a little bit, and now we have this episode, for the lack of a better term for it, here in October. Hopefully it's a blip on the radar, right? But I'd be willing to bet that there's maybe more to the story than we'll ever know. And I hope that all parties are just ready to move forward. It seems like the Packers are ready to inside that locker room. What do you think, Rob?
I mean, and I wanted to start off with that because that's probably one of the coolest moments, just as a human being, right? Not only to have that one, but the 2 after some of that stuff. And he came out and he said, too, he wasn't upset with the role, right? With his role, or how that initially was portrayed and came out, too. So obviously the guy was dealing with some stuff, and so to see that today and see everybody swarm around him together as a family was just that's bigger than football. That's something that's really special and something that I absolutely I love to see. So it was super great for them to rally behind him, and there you go again, like we were saying last week. Who's got the best hands on the team? He showed up today. He showed out in 2 TDs, especially on that one that you're talking about where he made that cool adjustment. So pretty awesome to see.
And I think this is a great segue into talking about the rest of the game, particularly offensively. But if he is unhappy about the role, You had a big game from Christian Watson today, which returned. You had a big game for Romeo Dobbs. You obviously saw Jaden Reed involved in the game plan. He had the most targets with 6, while I think nobody else got more than 4. And he also had a TD. I think we can just almost expect a TD from Jaden Reed every week, and maybe he's the only one we can consistently expect that from. But Tucker Kraft did not have the same statistics today. Wicks went out with a shoulder injury. But it's going to be this way every week of the season. There's going to be 2 or 3 guys that are the beneficiary of the game plan, the coverage, and hopefully these guys can all buy into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we were alluding to it from the previous episode, but what a heck of a job that we did to contain the legs of Kyler Murray. And that offense just in general. I know they were kind of hit there by some injuries with Marvin Harrison Jr. Going out there early. But still, whatever it was, 7 attempts, 8 attempts for, 15, 16 yards, whatever it was, is really just amazing from what he did from last week when he got 85, 84 yards against the 49ers and scored a touchdown with his legs. So for the defense to be able to contain him, and even when he did get out too, like he was getting pushed out, 2-3 yards in. So what a heck of a job for them to be able to contain that offense.
You want to stick with the defense, or you want to go to the offense first? I know you like your defense. We'll stay with the defense. They did a great job today. They really only gave up the 10 points. The one low light for Jordan Love on the day was the interception, which really wasn't his fault. Melton slipped on that play. It had rained the whole first half, and gifted the Cardinals the ball, and they turned it into only 3 points. But outside of a 10-minute game time period, the Packers really shut down the Cardinals, and here's another game, again, where we didn't pressure the quarterback a lot. We had 0 sacks recorded. Yes, I said 0, and I know that's going to continue to be a big point of discussion. But I'm not alarmed.
We called that to happen, though, in the last one, right? We kind of knew that they're going to play a lot more contained. So
I don't care if they have 0 sacks or 10 sacks. If we're going to hold a team to 10 or 13 points and we're still going to end up with 3 turnovers in the game, we win the turnover battle, our defense is doing what they need if our offense is clicking to win a lot of football games. So I don't care about the pressures. We can save that for the statue quarterbacks. But for years, I was sick of getting roasted against the mobile QB, and it finally seems like Halfley has committed and said we're not going to let QBs and running backs get outside and wreck our game.
Yeah, and the turnovers didn't start to happen there until the third quarter. The Cardinals' offense was literally shooting themselves in the foot, and you and I were kind of joking too from before this, but it kind of looked like some of those Packers games from the first half where we just had penalty after penalty after penalty. Now, that's not an excuse. Those are just facts, right? And you go back and look at a lot of those plays, and they were either holding or whatever it was. So they were definitely shooting themselves in the foot. They did not look, obviously, some injuries there too hurt them. I know they were having some shuffling some stuff there too on the offensive line. But, Evan Williams with a good punch out, right? That was incredible for Ja to pick up. They were coming with some sort of like psycho blitz is what I was hearing it called. On the interwebs when Murray botched the handoff with him and Trey Benson, even after they had just talked.
I mean, Carl Brooks, he got that other one. He forced it out, and he ended up recovering it. And another week where Carl Brooks, I mean, he doesn't show up in spades, but every week Carl Brooks makes another play that impacts the game. So that's really great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And then no interception for Xavier McKinney, but it didn't look like there was too many deep balls that were thrown. There were a lot of balls over the middle again today too. So we figured that streak would probably be coming to an end here at some point. But definitely the Cardinals were not. They were chunking and dinking and dunking on us and throwing. I thought I saw somebody post this too, but it was like 75 or 80% of their passes were over the middle. A lot to Trey McBride,
Well, we talked about that last week too, and I don't like to sit here and toot our own horn too much, but I mean they took advantage of the Packers where we expected them to, and Quay Walker again, tough game. I'm gonna kind of get sick of talking about the tough game for Quay Walker. He ended up with a lot of tackles, right? But he's always catching all these guys well after the point of attack and the line of scrimmage. But he got exposed by McBride in the passing game today. One time I think he just missed. I think he expected to pass it off to a guy over the middle, and he looks and there's nobody there, and I'm like 99% sure that was just his guy to cover. And then another time in coverage right over the middle. I mean, McBride he's good. So I mean, he took advantage of that matchup.
Yeah, but just an overall really good and really sound day. I was liking the stuff we were seeing from Edrin Cooper. Thought I did see him in the mic or in that middle spot quite a bit, but man, there's more than a couple of runs where he came in, he mirrored what the running back was doing and stuffed him right at that line of attack. Man, most Packers fans I would say agree too, but Edrin Cooper is a hell of a player. Him and Evan Williams both.
Mm-hmm. And Javon Bullard, I mean, all three of the rookies that are starting to get more run on defense are really making an impact. And I don't have the snap count for Cooper yet because we are recording this, just a few hours after the game. I'd expect this to be as high a snap total of the season. And if they keep incrementally increasing that, Williams is playing a lot more, and Bullard played a lot closer to the line today, allowing Williams to kind of play in that true safety role again. Nixon, I think, was playing more on the outside, which I kind of wonder how sustainable that is. But Williams looks great in that safety role. Bullard, you never hear his name called, and I'd be willing to bet it's a little bit of that like Jair Alexander effect, and you don't hear his name called on TV because he's got whoever he's covering blanketed.
Yeah. We got quite the trio there too, and we played really good today. A lot better than I was expecting, especially there on defense. Just knowing what the Cardinals can do at any moment, and Kyler Murray and his legs. So overall, just again, we won the turnover battle, right? Another game where we're winning the turnover battle and coming away with a big victory. So, and overall, just an absolute complete game. But so let's hop over to the offensive side of the ball, because I know that's where we were starting until Rob jumped the gun and went on his defense train, as I typically like to do. We talked about a little bit about Dobbs to begin this episode, but what are some other things or some things that impressed you as far as what the offense did today? Well,
before we jump to that, sorry to delay your segue, but there was one play that I really wanted to talk about on defense, and it was a play in run contain that involved Lucas Van Ness and Evan Williams against James Conner. I think it was like a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1. It was a critical play. I should have taken the down and distance. But the Cardinals were trying to convert. Right. I think it was a 4th and 1, and I think they called the timeout. I think they came back out and they ran that play. They were going to do a little quarterback option, and LVN was on the quarterback, and Evan Williams was assigned. Well, he was on the runner. Sorry, he was on James Conner. I think wherever James Conner was going to go, or whoever the inside runner, he was going to take that person. And Evan Williams was right there to take whoever was going to be on the outside. Stuck him for a tackle for loss. And I think that's just a complete demonstration to how dedicated they are to contain and how good they were at it. They had a tackle for loss, and that's great play. So over to the offense, Jordan Love had a great day that was really only marred by the one interception that we already talked about. It was a slip on wet turf, but he ends up with 4 touchdowns. He has 258 yards on the day. Overall, his completion percentage, I think, was close to 70%. I think like 68 or 69%. So, and he looks mobile. He scrambled. He looks comfortable. I don't know, really impressed with Jordan Love, and I hope this is the game that we look back to as the season progresses and say, yeah, that's when things really took off. So, I don't know, what do you think about Love's overall performance?
Yeah, it played really well. Looked comfortable. Things seemed to be clicking. And I think we have it highlighted here, though, too. But, the penalties, specifically in these last two games, have been heavily reduced. So, when you're putting a good game plan together, that's all fine and dandy. But if you're going to get, penalized, to the max, that's obviously going to stall a lot of the stuff that you're trying to doing, a la the Arizona Cardinals in this game for about the first three quarters. That's significantly helped us. 437 total yards, rush for a $179, and Jordan too here, a pretty crazy stat, but 1,003 rush yards in the first six games, and that's the first time since 1963. Wow. That's pretty incredible too. And then winning the time of possession as well, a little bit of ball control, 36 minutes to 23 minutes. Overall, I thought Jordan Love was really did really good. I loved what Romeo Dobbs is doing. He has amazing hands. Bo Melton got involved a little bit. Christian Watson showing off his speed, and them kind of being aggressive. I know that was a play too where. Was it 2 plays before they had the kick? Jaden Reed caught it, and then he fumbled it. Arizona recovered it, but there was 2 offsetting penalties, so they re-kicked it. Nixon went down. I think it was to like the 45 or the 40 of the Cardinals opposing fields, and then just straight up aggressive bomb. They saw something in that secondary because I think they had called a timeout or they had talked about it from before. And Christian Watson absolutely burns Budda Baker for almost a wide open touchdown.
Just super happy to see Christian back and have a big play. That's what he's capable of bringing to this offense, and we've got some other guys that can create that in the aggregate, but he can do that in an instant and add a big play to the game at any point in time. Since I don't really want to talk a lot about teams, there's not much to mention, but since you talked about that Reed muffed punt, I'll give credit to my brother in the family chat. We send a lot of chatter back and forth all week long, but especially during the game, and he's like, why do we even have Reed returning punts at this point in time anymore? He's way too valuable to everything else we're doing on offense. We're paying Keyshawn Nixon a bunch of money, and then he goes out and has that return. And, we have options in the secondary. I mean, I'm kind of like leaning towards, once everybody's healthy, Jair's back, Valentine's back, play Bullard in the slot full time. So, why not more Keyshawn Nixon in the return game? I'd be for it.
Yeah. I mean, he showed it off right there, right? Like, that was just a massive play, and obviously led to a touchdown for us to go up to 24-0. So, yeah, I think a lot of Packers fans would probably be hammering for that. Plus, you want to be able to get Evan Williams on the field too, as much as possible, because again, like we just alluded to, the kid is a playmaker. So with Bullard going in the slot, that only helps out Evan Williams' playing time as well.
Yeah, I really want to shout out the offensive line, and we haven't talked a lot about them collectively on this pod and a lot of these post-game reactions. There's been a lot of penalties. There's been a lot of other things to talk about, but 0 sacks allowed today. So there was a sack, no sacks by either team. But, and the Cardinals pass rush isn't a super unit to write home about. But very little pressure on Jordan Love, 0 sacks allowed. We rushed for 179 yards again. As it stands, coming into this week, we were second in the league in rushing. I'd have to imagine that we're going to remain right there, only behind the Ravens, which that rushing attack is something else with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. But this unit is getting it done in pass protection. They're getting it done in running the ball. And it's not just Josh Jacobs, it's Emmanuel Wilson. Brooks got in there today. And those guys are paving the way. They're creating some holes and letting our running backs get into the second level and make some plays, which is really great. So,
yeah, balanced attack. We've been trying to toot on that horn, quite a bit. Run the ball, play action, scheme some stuff do a little bit of some of your orbit motions and your different things to Jaden Reed, which they definitely did. I think they got Bo Melton involved too as well, a time or two if I'm remembering correctly. But it was, without many penalties, it was very, very efficient. Obviously, we were up 24, nothing there for a little while. We went up there fast. We've been wanting a fast game, right? We've been coming out of the gates a lot slower here in the first half, and then lighting up then in the second half too. So overall, it's just extremely efficient. That too, and like when Myers went out, right, Jenkins hopped over into center. Ryan went over to left guard, and then Morgan, who was back and rotating in as you were talking about, did a heck of a job there as well too, and a couple of running plays to spring some guys open. So absolutely, man, it's a team. It's a line that you don't really talk about that much, but man, when you have 179 yards, 0 sacks. You're having all day. You can scheme open to the stuff. You're not having any penalties. I mean, it's lights out. Who are you going to stop? Jaden Reed? Okay, then we'll go to Christian Watson. You're going to try and stop Christian Watson? All right, then we're going to go to Romeo Dobbs, for these, high point type of balls to where he comes down with seems like a lot of those, right? So also as well too, good to have his hands back. Romeo Dobbs, I've missed your hands, so it's good for him to get some of that as well.
It's a weird thing for one man to say to another. But just to stay with the line for a second, right? And I think you bring up an interesting point. One, for those of you who didn't catch it on the broadcast, Jordan Morgan was rotating into the game already before the Myers injury. So they said that earlier in the week that was going to happen. And I think they're trying to get him some reps and some experience just for in the event of what happened. But I think going into next week, and we know nothing right now about what Myers' injury is. Rob and I both missed it on the broadcast if they mentioned it. So, if you see it, put it out there. Probably by the time you watch this on Wednesday, we're going to know exactly what it is, at least what body part's injured. They're pretty coy about those things off the bat. But it'll be curious if this is a long-term injury. Does Elton Jenkins become center, and they line up just like they did in the late part of that game with Ryan at left guard, Jenkins at center, and Morgan at right guard? Do they bring Sean Ryan in and let him get familiar with center and make that part of that game plan and kick Jenkins back to the left guard? We don't know. My initial gut says it might just be like it was at the end of this game here, but it'll be something to keep track of moving forward. And given all the chatter about our offensive line, Josh Myers might be our weakest link, and we're going to see that. Hopefully we don't see that because that means Myers is healthy enough to play. But if he does have to miss some time, we're going to figure that out over the next few weeks.
Yeah, for sure. But overall, just an amazing day there up at Lambeau. Really efficient on both sides of the ball, and what I've felt, and I'm sure you feel, and most Packer fans feel as well too, the most complete game from end to end that we've had so far in the season. So,
and there's still meat on the bone, as they would say, right? It wasn't a perfect game, but it was a much more complete game. And that has me really excited moving into the second part of this season and a big game we got coming up against the Texans next week. So,
yeah, that and as well too. But the NFC North, absolutely killing it this year. It might be. I think it is. It's the toughest division so far in football. So there's a lot of good competition. The Bears played really well earlier in the day. The Vikings are doing the Vikings things, and as we're recording this, the Lions absolutely thrashing the Dallas Cowboys. So buckle up. It's only going to get better as this time goes on, and we get a couple of games against more division rivals too.
I think we've transitioned into our look around the league segment, but it's not official until we get Rob's. Here we go. So give it to us, Rob.
Yeah, okay.
Here we go. Do. But yeah, I imagine a world where 4 NFC North teams make the playoffs. That's not going to happen. But right now, as it stands, because the Lions, that game did go final, all 4 of the teams in the NFC North have 4 wins or more. It's crazy, and I thought the Bears would be a fringe playoff team, which I still really truthfully believe that's right where they're at. They've had a couple of easy wins. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars look tough. But I'm not going to take anything away from them. A win is a win in the NFL, and these professionals, and these players are all professionals, and they go out there and they get paid to try to win. But the Vikings have really surprised me. I have to admit that they're a much better team than I anticipated on both sides of the ball. Mostly because Sam Darnold is playing out of his mind, but it's not surprising that defense is playing to the level that they're playing at. The linebackers really unlocked them, I think, there. But as we look around, the Vikings are on bye. We've already mentioned the Lions destroyed the Cowboys, and you could tell they took that personally, trying to get some revenge from last year's game in Dallas that they lost. And they tried not only one, but two trick plays that involved offensive linemen scoring touchdowns. They were unsuccessful in both attempts, but they really wanted to prove a point. But that game was costly for them. Aiden Hutchinson went out of that game, and I think the reports now are that he maybe has a broken tibia or fibia, and it's looking like he might be done for the year.
That is terrible. I didn't end up seeing that or hearing about that. That is absolutely, that hurts for them.
Yeah, to lose your best defensive player and heart and soul of your defense. I think the Lions are very well coached, but their pass rush is maybe that's one of the weaker spots on their team, especially without Hutch there. That could have an impact on how far they go and some big games they play. Just to wrap this up, the Bears beat a bad Jacksonville team. The Texans take care of the Patriots 41-21. So we've got the 5-1 Texans coming to Lambeau next week to take on the 4-2 Packers. Very excited for that. I'll be there with my family. Ravens introduced the Commanders to the big kids table, and the Ravens win 30-23. But I'm not taking anything away from the Commanders. They scare me. Bucks beat up the Saints in Spencer Rattler's debut. And the 49ers on Thursday night took care of the Seahawks, and the Seahawks are now 0-3 in their last 3 games. They kind of had a kind of a mirage of a start, I think, playing some weaker teams. But yeah, we are officially 1 subscriber away from 100 people. That could be you. And if you are, we'll definitely give you a shout out. So please subscribe. But yeah, that's all for this episode from Rob and I. We've got more content from Sounds Gouda every Wednesday and Saturday. Thank you for listening. Share with your family and friends. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to hit subscribe, comment, like, and let us know what you think. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to follow us and connect and interact with us on X, Rob at Robber79, and myself at Olson George. So until next time, Packers Nation, have a Gouda morning, a Gouda afternoon, and a Gouda night. Go Pack.
Go Pack.
Been wanted this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey.